Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. So children, our lesson for today will be the second part of the lesson that we were doing last time for standard 10th English. So you remember we were doing the lesson, the 3 questions, and it was a beautiful story by Leo Tolstoy. And we saw the story with very beautiful pictures. We tried to understand the moral of the story, and also we did a few exercises which were connected to the story in that lesson. And remember, when we were doing that lesson, I told you that this is going to be a little long. This lesson is a long story and there are a lot of exercises also with it. So what are we going to do? We are going to continue this lesson when we do English next time. So as promised, I have come back with the second part of this particular lesson, the 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy. And today we will be doing part 2 of this particular lesson. So we will do the story once again in the sense not in great details like we had done last time. Okay, but we will quickly go through the story so that you get an idea of what we were talking about last time and you will be able to connect it with the lesson today. So let us start with going back to our story. And this is a story about a king who suddenly there were 3 questions which came up in his mind. And he wanted answers to these 3 questions. So what were the 3 questions about? So he had 3 queries and he felt that in case these ideas or these queries of mine are satisfied and in case I find answers to these 3 questions, I will be able to be a better ruler. I will be able to rule my country in a better manner. And that is why what he did was he tried to find answers to these 3 questions. So what were these 3 questions that our king had, children? So the first question or question number 1 was, what is the right time to begin something? So I told you that even otherwise in life you will see that when you want to do something good, that is when you want to buy a house, or you will see that in your house when someone wants to get married, what do? We always try to look at some auspicious occasion, isn't it? We try to find out a date which is supposed to be lucky. Okay, now what is lucky, what is not lucky depends upon our faith. It depends on our mindset. If we are alive on a particular day, you can consider that you're lucky that day. Okay, but then some people, they have a little bit of you can say reservations about such things and they try to find out what is lucky. So in a way, our king also wanted to know what is the right time to begin something. He also wanted answer to his question number 2, and that was, which people should he listen to? Now you know that a king is surrounded by advisors, he's surrounded by his ministers, he's surrounded by people who may not mean well to him. They might talk sweetly on his face, but they may not mean well. So he wants to know which people he should listen to. He also wants to know what is the most important thing for him to do. So these were the 3 questions which were foremost on the king's mind. And you know, sometimes when you are faced with certain questions and you want answers to them, you are distracted. Unless and until you get answers to those 3 questions or whatever questions that you have in your mind, your mind is distracted. You don't feel like doing anything else or concentrating on anything else. So that was the condition of our king here in this particular story. And he sent out town criers to all around his kingdom. He sent out messengers, and these people announced that anyone who has an answer to the king's 3 questions will be rewarded amply. So now these people, there were many people who came to the court of the king and they tried to give one answer or the other, but the king was not satisfied. And finally someone told him that there is a hermit somewhere in the middle of the jungle.
So you should go to that particular hermit and he will give you the right answer. So the king decided to go to the hermit because different people were giving him different answers, and he was not at all satisfied with any of these answers that he was getting from the people. So he went on his way to meet the hermit alone. Though he had his soldiers on standby outside the jungle, but the hermit was a person who would not meet any person from the royal family. He would meet only ordinary people. So the king put on ordinary clothes and he went to meet the hermit. Now he stayed with the hermit, he helped the hermit for some days, and he started repeating. He asked his question, he repeated his question a number of times, but the hermit would not respond at all. The hermit would behave as if he has not heard the king at all. So this went on for some days, and one day suddenly a wounded man came running out of the forest. You can see how this man was bleeding. So the king and the hermit, they tended lovingly. They tended this wounded man with a lot of care, and they nursed him back to health. And when he came back to his senses, when he became healthy, this man revealed that he was an enemy of the king. He actually did not mean well for the king. He was an enemy of the king, and he had come in disguise to kill the king. But the soldiers who were on standby outside the jungle, remember I told you, those soldiers, they wounded him. But now he started asking the king for his forgiveness. Okay, and the king was also very happy that he got a friend, and also he returned that man's property back to him. Okay, so now the king gained a friend, and the king gained a lot of experience also. And then when he went back to the hermit one last time to seek answers to his question, the hermit answered his question in this manner. He said, what is the most important time to do anything? It is now. Okay, the present, because we do not know what the future holds for us, and we do not know what is in the past. So what is the best, important and most important time to do anything or to start doing something? It is now. Don't keep pushing it to tomorrow or to a better day, because the best day is now or today. Who is the most important person to refer to? So who did he say? The person you are with at the moment. You do not know whether someone else will come into your life. You do not know whether that person who will come into your life will be good. So the person who's with you at the moment, who is giving you company at the moment, that is the most important person whom you should refer to. And what is the most important job, he said, to do? The hermit said that to do good to a person who's with you is the most important job. Instead of searching for people who are needy outside, what should you do? You should begin your charity at home. So whatever good you want to do, you should start with the person who is with you, so that you can continue doing your good work. So the king's questions were answered. The king was satisfied, and the king was very, very thankful to the hermit. And the king learnt a lesson, and he went back to his kingdom, and he ruled wisely and well for a long, long period of time. So that was the story of the lesson that we did last time, the 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy. Now let's move on and let us do some exercises which are there in the textbook. So let's continue the exercises from the textbook. So let us see what is there in hold for us. So this is the first, you can say, exercise where there are compound words from the story which are spelt in a jumbled order. So you have to rearrange the letters to make the word meaningful. So compound words means 2 words which are written together. Okay, so let us see what the first one is. Now children, I keep repeating this and I will repeat it again and again so that you remember that whenever you come to such an exercise, what will you do? You will halt or you will pause the video and try to figure out the answers yourself. Okay, only then you will come back and check the answers. So don't do any ready-made copying down work. Use your brain also and try to find out certain answers yourself also. So the first word, AREETUKDN, So if you try to rearrange the letters and make it a meaningful word, you will get the word undertake, which is made up of two words, under and take. Look at the next one, Y-O-N-N-A-E. So this is anyone. Okay. Next will be pastimes. Alright. After that you have bodyguard. Then you have warfare. W-A-R-F-A-R-E. Warfare. Next word will be beforehand. So see, before and hand. Warfare is war and fair. Bodyguard is body and guard. Then you have meanwhile. And finally, everything. So these are some compound words from your story, and we have rearranged the words. So hope your list matches with my list, and if it matches, very good, keep up the good work. Let us move on and let us go to the next exercise in your book. So this is also an exercise based on vocabulary. So you are supposed to find out collocations from the story. Okay. Now before we find the collocations, let us do a quick small exercise about what are collocations, the meaning of collocations, and we will look at certain examples also of collocations. So what are collocations? Collocations are word partnerships, okay, or words that are commonly used together. So when there is one word with another word, then we call it as a collocation. Alright, just like you can see these two peas in a pod. So collocations, they are together, isn't it? So collocations are also two words that are commonly used together. Okay. Now there are some words which you use together and they are collocations. There are some words which mean the same as the previous set of words, but they are not collocations. So some words you cannot use them as collocations. Okay. So let us see what they are and let us see some examples of collocation also. So see here, making a bed. Okay. So making and bed together. Making a bed means arranging the bed, cleaning it up and arranging the pillows, putting on the bed sheet, etc. so that you can go to sleep. So making and bed goes together. You have doing homework, which goes together. So for homework, you never say writing homework. You say doing homework. Did you do your homework? You ask. Isn't it? You never ask, did you write your homework? So doing homework means writing it, but you do not say writing homework. You say doing homework. Saving time. So when you talk about time, you usually say save. So saving time. Doing the dishes. You do not say cleaning the dishes. Clean the dishes, you can say it. Of course, it is not wrong. But when you talk about collocations, you say doing the dishes. Giving someone advice. Giving advice. Okay? You do not say passing advice or you do not say any other word. You say giving advice. So these are all examples of collocations. Alright? See, look at some common collocations and then we will also try and put it in sentences here. So one collocation is crystal clear. Crystal clear means clean, clear. So when is water clear? When it is transparent. Okay? When you can see through the water. So can you say crystal transparent? No, that will be wrong. Alright? So it is crystal clear. So see, the water is crystal clear and drunk without any treatment. Alright, so we are talking about water here. So whenever you refer to pure water or to water which is very good for drinking, you usually say crystal clear. Come to the next one. Good enough. This work is simply not good enough. So you say good and enough together. So good enough is a collocation. Next will be best possible. Getting a perfect score is the best possible. So best and possible together make a collocation, and we can also see how it is used in a sentence. Let's go on and see the next one. Safe and sound. Okay, he was weak for lack of food, but safe and sound. So that person was weak. He was not going to die, but he was safe. All right. He was weak for lack of food, but safe and sound. So safe and sound are two words which we usually take together as a collocation. Then you have neat and tidy. See, we always say this. Why don't you keep the class neat and tidy? Your mother also tells you, come on, arrange your place or arrange the place where you're sitting, your table, keep it neat and tidy, isn't it? So the classroom and its equipment had to be very neat and tidy. Then we have best ever. In my opinion, he was the best ever. Best ever means the best. Okay. Then you have sick and tired. See, we always say na, neat and tidy. Like that we say sick and tired. Sick and tired means you're bored now. You do not want to do this anymore. You're not actually sick. Okay, your health is good, but you're getting bored. So for bored, there is this particular collocation, sick and tired. The boy was sick and tired of doing his lengthy homework assignment. All right. And see here you can see the collocation doing homework also. Next will be close together. They stand close together holding hands. So these are some common examples of collocations. Now a little bit more information of collocations let us see. So these are the types of collocations. Okay. So you can have an adverb with an adjective. Completely satisfied. So completely is the adverb and satisfied is the adjective. So you cannot say downright satisfied. That will be wrong. Okay. Adjective plus noun also you can have. Excruciating pain. So excruciating is the adjective. Pain is a feeling, so it is the noun. But you cannot say excruciating joy. Excruciating pain means extreme pain. As against this, opposite of pain is joy. Okay, but you cannot say excruciating joy. That will be wrong there. Alright, so these are the collocations which you can use and which you cannot use. Then you can use one noun with another noun. So a surge of anger. So a surge is a noun. Anger is a noun. What is the meaning of surge? When something comes to you suddenly, then that is a suddenly and in a you can say in a huge quantity. That is a surge. All right. But here you cannot say a rush of anger. You can say a surge of anger. Anger comes rushing to you, but you cannot say a rush of anger. Next one, a noun plus a verb. So lions roar. So what is the meaning of roaring? Roaring means making a loud noise. So for a loud noise, you can also say shout, isn't it? But you cannot say shout here. You cannot say lions shouting. You can say lions roaring. Verb also plus a noun. See, commit, suicide. Commit means to do something. Alright. But you cannot say undertake suicide. You would have to say commit suicide for your collocation to be correct. Verb plus expression with prepositions. So you say burst into tears. So you burst means you suddenly start crying. So burst into means when something happens suddenly. So blowing up also happens suddenly. But you cannot say blowing up into tears. Okay. Next example, verb plus adverb. So you wave. Waving is a verb. Adverb is frantically. Frantically means with a lot of, you can say, gusto, with a lot of haste. Okay, you're waving desperately for someone. But you do not say waving desperately or waving feverishly. You will say waving frantically. So these are the types of collocations, and you cannot use certain collocations that we will see now. In this also we have seen certain examples. Let us see some more examples. See, easier ones now for you. We say fast cars, fast food. Fast car means a car which is very fast. Fast means quick actually, isn't it? Which takes less time. Fast food is also the same thing. For example, you go to a vada pav stall and you just buy a vada pav and you eat it. So that is fast food. Immediately your hunger is satiated. You need not take a cooker and put rice and dal into it and cook it and then eat it. Okay? But you cannot say quick cars, you cannot say quick food. That will be wrong. Look at the next one now. Certain places you can use quick, you cannot use fast. For example, a quick glance. Your teacher tells you now, so now in 5 minutes I'm giving you the test. Take a quick glance at your textbook. Your teacher will never tell you take a fast glance at your textbook. There it will be wrong. Even though the meaning of fast and quick is more or less the same, but you cannot use it in certain places. You can use them in others. So see here, a quick meal, you say. You don't say a fast meal. You say a quick meal of fast food. Alright. So these are some collocations or some words which we can say together and some words which we cannot say together. One more example. See, the correct and the incorrect collocation. So high temperature is correct. Tall temperature, incorrect. Have an experience, correct. Make an experience, incorrect. Heavy rain, correct. Thick rain, incorrect. Okay, so we have enough of, you can say, practice we have done with collocations. So I'm sure now you're ready to tackle the collocation exercise which is there in your textbook. So let us see, let's look at this exercise and let us see whether you're able to find out the answers. So what is our formula? You go back, you pause the video, try to find out the answers, come back and check with mine. Let us start. Dash important, most important. Then you have frail and weak. Then right time. Then simple clothes. Okay. Then fell asleep. See now, these are all collocations that we have found from the story. You can make your own collocations also. Okay. For example, simple person you can say. Fast asleep you can say. Fast asleep means someone who's in deep sleep. So you can make your own collocations also. So that also I will give it to you as an assignment. But here what have we done? We are finding out collocations from the story as given in our exercise. Then we have gazing intently. Gazing means looking carefully, intently. Widely renowned means well known. Who was well known here? In the story, it was the hermit. Warm blood, eyes closed, made peace. So these are the collocations from the story. Hope your answers matched with mine. Now we have one last exercise here in our textbook about grammar, and that is about nouns, that is the finite and the non-finite nouns. So let us first see, verbs. Let us first understand what are verbs, what are finite verbs and non-finite verbs, and then we will go and find out what the exercise has to say. So verbs, here in this particular case, they are of two types, finite verbs and non-finite verbs. So when you're learning about finite verbs and non-finite verbs, it means verbs which act as verbs and verbs which do not act as verbs. Okay. So let us see now. Let's understand what are finite verbs and what are non-finite verbs quickly. Now remember children, in the 8th standard textbook also, you have had a lesson where you have studied finite verbs and non-finite verbs. So verbs, you can distinguish them and put them into two categories. One are finite verbs and the other is non-finite verbs. So finite verbs we will look at now, and then non-finite verbs a little later in this lesson. Non-finite verbs are of three types. Again, we have the participle, the gerund and the infinitives. So we will look at them also. Okay, but we will take a quick glance at them. We have already learnt this in a lower class. We are just revising what we learnt, and then we will do the exercise from our textbook. So let's see. In English grammar, a finite verb is a form of a verb that shows agreement with a subject and is marked for tense. So any verb which agrees with the subject, which is in tandem with the subject, which has got a connection with the subject in the sentence, is a finite verb, and also it has tense, it shows a tense. Okay, so it is a finite verb. Let us look at a little bit more explanation. If there is just one verb in a sentence, then that verb is a finite verb. Okay, so in other words, a finite verb is independent in a sentence. The finite verb has its own existence in a sentence, and it is very important also to the sentence because it does its function of showing the action. All right. How will you identify finite verbs now, children? So most finite verbs can take an ed or a d at the end of the word when we talk about that particular word in the past tense. So whenever you think about a verb, when you look at it and you think that if I add ed to this, if I add d to this, does it become the past tense? Then yes, this is a finite verb. If no, then in that particular sentence, it is not a finite verb. For example, see, let's look at some exercises. Cuff, when it can become cuffed in a sentence, it is a finite verb. Celebrate, when it can become celebrated in a sentence, then it is a finite verb. See, with the cuff, we added an ed, and with the celebrate, because it already had an e at the end, we added only a d. Finite verbs, you can identify them in one more way. So nearly all finite verbs, they take an s at the end of the word to indicate the present tense when the subject of the verb is third person singular. So what is first person singular, second person singular, third person singular? We have done it earlier, so that will take a lot of time to explain. Okay, I will tell you quickly what it means. So third person singular, when you say cuff, I cuff, you say, that is first person singular. You cuff, second person singular. He cuffs, so he is third person singular. Alright, so now you know what is third person singular. Celebrate, I, when you say I celebrate, I am first person singular. You, second person singular, you celebrate. But when you talk about the third person, he, she or it celebrates. So all finite verbs, nearly all of them, take an s at the end to indicate the present. Okay, we are talking about present tense. Cuffs, when you say he cuffs, she celebrates, you're talking about the present tense. When the subject is the third person singular, is in the third person singular form, he, she or it. Okay, children, so this was about identification of finite verbs. Now let us quickly look at what are non-finite verbs. So we have three types, like I told you. We have the infinitive, the gerund and the participle. Let us quickly look at them so that your memory gets jogged again. So infinitives are what? What is the definition of an infinitive? It is a basic form of a verb. For example, to see, to live, to love, to learn, all these are examples of infinitives. So to plus a verb or only the base form of the verb which has the function of a noun is an infinitive. So I told you, these verbs, they can act as verbs also. They can act as nouns also. They can act as adjectives also. So when the verb is acting like a verb, then it is a verb. Then it is a finite verb. But when it starts acting like a noun or it starts acting like an adjective, then that time we call it as the non-finite verb. Okay? So see here, to play cricket is interesting. So to play is an infinitive. I can perform prayer. So perform here is an infinitive. Okay? So to plus verb and only base form of the verb, and it functions as a noun. It is an infinitive. Participles, now you have participles are words that are derived from verbs that can function as adjectives. So whenever a word which looks like a verb but it functions like an adjective, then it is a participle. For example, see the best example of participle that I could find. It looks like a verb, that is running. You know that run is a verb, isn't it? So running, it looks like a verb, but then it is not a verb. For in the part of the sentence where you say the running water. Alright, when you say the boy is running, then there it is a verb. But here, the running water, it is not a verb. It is describing the water, that it is saying that the water is not stagnant water, but it is running water. So that is why it is a participle. Alright, the verb is acting like an adjective. See, you're describing the verb water, you're describing the noun water, and it is performing the function of an adjective. So there are three kinds of participles in English, children: present participle, past participle, and perfect participle. Quickly, let us try to understand what is present participle means in the present when you use the ing form. Okay, past participle is when you use the ed form, all right, or when you use the en form of the verb. Stolen, when you say that it is past participle. Perfect participle is when you say that one action is over and the other action is started. Having done his homework, he went out to play. So having done his homework, here it is an example of a perfect participle. You can pick up the video which I have done for a standard 8th English, that is the Happy Prince. You will find a lot of explanation about non-finite verbs. And if you pick up the lesson which is the 3 visions for standard 8th, you will find the entire part of finite verbs explained. Alright, so let's move on and let's talk about what are gerunds. So I love swimming. So see, you're not saying that the boy is swimming. You're saying that you like this activity of swimming. So here swimming, and when you say reading is a good habit, we're not saying that I am reading or the girl is reading, but you're saying reading as an activity is a good habit. So where you're talking about the activity and not about the action, then these become gerunds. So the verb plus ing form, which functions as a noun. Okay, so swimming here is the activity. It is not the action. So these are called as gerunds. And this particular noun, the verb plus ing form, which becomes a noun, it is either the subject of the sentence or it is the object of the sentence. Okay, children, so this was about gerunds. Now we will come and see what is there in the exercise for us to do. So say whether the verbs which are underlined in the sentences are finite. That is, do they change when it is a first person, second person, etc.? Or do they change according to the subject? Or are they non-finite? Are they not bothered? They are not bothered about the subject, number, person, etc. And they do not behave like a verb at all. So he decides to go to a hermit. So now we know that to go, decides is something which is he is doing. The action is there. So decides here is finite, because see, when you say I, it will be I decide, you decide, he decides. And to go here is the non-finite verb. Okay, it is the infinitive here. I have come to you, wise hermit. So I have is finite, come is non-finite. Okay? Because if you say I have come, he has come, she has come. So see, the have and has is changing, but the come is not changing. Okay? He gave the reward to none. Gave, finite. Then you have the hermit was digging the ground. Digging, non-finite. Alright? I pray you to answer my prayers. So I pray, finite. To answer, non-finite. Forgive me. Forgive, finite. Alright? So, this was the exercise in your book about finite and non-finite nouns. We went to great detail and we looked at what is the meaning of finite nouns, what are the types of non-finite nouns, etc. Now we go a little further in this lesson and we talk about the activity related to reading and to betterment of language. Okay, so there is this particular, you can say, saying in your book, or you can say this idiom, or this is a line coined by a very famous person, that is Aristotle. He says, patience is bitter, but its fruits are sweet. So in the textbook, they've asked you to discuss, or they've asked you to think about it. Now you can't discuss, children, because you are not with your friends in your classroom anymore. So what you can do is you can think about this, and they've asked you to narrate an incident from your life or write down 10 lines of an incident from your life where you have experienced this thing happening. That is where patience, when you were patient, it was bitter. That is, you were finding it difficult to be patient. You wanted to stop doing it. You wanted to stop working on it. But when the result came out in front of you, the results were sweet. The fruit was sweet. Okay. So this is one assignment for you. And there is one more assignment here. So there is this particular story called as How Much Land Does a Man Need? This is also a story by Leo Tolstoy. So when you read Leo Tolstoy's stories, you learn a lot of things about life. Okay, you can say you learn a lot of morals about life, how you should live your life and what kind of behavior you should have, and you learn so many wise things. Now in this particular story, there was this person called Pakhom who was living a very contented life along with his wife, but then he got into the trap of greed and he wanted to acquire more and more and more land. And then, he must have done things which were not supposed to be done, and finally he ended up dying with nothing. And it went on, people went on to realize that finally, what does a person need? A person needs just 6 feet of land. Now this is with regards to Leo Tolstoy's culture, where after death they are buried. Okay, 6 feet of land you require to bury someone. But here, if you are if you're following the religion Islam, or if you're following the religion of Christianity, this holds true for you. You need land to be buried. But if you belong to a faith where you are not buried at all, where your body is cremated, that is, you're burnt, then you will not need even 6 feet of land. Okay, so that is what Leo Tolstoy wants to tell you. So now this is a small, you can say, summary of the story that I've given you. Now again, there are no libraries open at this point of time for you to go and find this book and read it. So you have online libraries. Okay, you can go to Google and check what the story of this particular book is. How much land does a man need? And then you will find out certain points. That is, what is the background of the story? The main character's name is Pakhom. I told you. Who are the other characters? What is the plot? Plot means what is the main idea of the story? What is the theme of the story? How does the story end? That is, what is the climax of the story? And what message or moral do you get from this particular story? Okay, so this will be your homework, you can say. So children, this is not a pattern where I give you homework at the end of the day or at the end of the lesson. So as we have moved on in the lesson, I have given you a number of assignments, isn't it? So all that can be taken as your homework. So when I asked you to pause the video and search for some answers, that was your homework, isn't it? So this is also an assignment which I am giving you. See whether you are able to find out answers to these points. So today's lesson, we did part 2 of Leo Tolstoy's famous story, The Three Questions. We also did some vocabulary exercises, that is, we talked about collocations, and we also did a small part of compound words, and then we talked about the verbs, that is the finite and the non-finite verbs, and we did an example or an exercise of non-finite verbs and finite verbs from your English textbook.
So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learned a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.